Before the show starts, this is a reminder to all our listeners that the podcast is an open discussion forum and not meant to be used as a source of direct professional help. We at Panic Stations UK would always urge anybody listening to go seek advice from their GP, that is their doctor, a counsellor or a therapist. The podcast is, however, a place for people to share experiences and realise that you are not alone. Due to the subject matter discussed in the shows, some episodes may have explicit language in. I warn listeners, as this is meant to be a realistic look at mental health. As such, you may find that some of the guests use some pretty colourful language. I ask all listeners just to freely accept this and to honour the guests that are on the show. It's their journey and it's their freedom of speech, and we at Panic Stations UK would never do anything to discourage that. Many thanks and enjoy the show. Hello, how are we? Really good feedback so far for the previous two episodes of Panic Stations UK. I'm your host, I'm Chris Jones, and I hope everybody out there is okay and everything's all good with them. Bit of a weird one. Now, initially, episode 3 was about 2.5, almost 3 hours long. So I went, ooh, that's a bit long for a podcast. I know the first one was quite long, but that was our introductory episode. So I want to try and get them between an hour and an hour and a half tops. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this episode, what was initially episode 3 with 2 interviews and a bit with myself, is being broken down into episodes 3 and 4. So, bear with us if I refer to things later on through pre-recorded interviews about going, oh yeah, well, you know, we had so-and-so on earlier, or, you know, we're going to speak to Andy in a minute, or whatever. It's because initially the idea was to put them both in the same podcast, so I apologise. Now, second of all, when I initially did the interview with Emma, because she's in Canada, I was using Skype. Unfortunately, again, teething problems, early days of Panic Stations UK. I was trying to make sure everything was all okay and so we could get everything clear. She comes out crystal, it's brilliant. I come out really blurred and there's a bit of a hum. Now, I'm asking you to stick through it simply because it is actually a really, really good interview and there's a lot to learn from it, and it's really nice just to stick through it. So please ignore any technical difficulties when my voice perhaps goes a little quieter or the sound quality kind of muddles during the interviews, because I've had to try and faff around trying to get the levels right. So bear with it, stick through it. It's really interesting. It's really, really good. And I apologise to Emma in advance because obviously that's my fault on a technical level. So I'm trying to sort things out. Again, early days, you know. So hopefully we'll have her back at a later date anyway, because that's the plan. Because both Emma and Andy come up with some valid stuff, and they've got so much experience with different things. It's worth having him back on just to talk about other stuff. Now, the other thing I was going to say is if you want to submit any work, because we're getting loads of people going, wow, I really like the idea of the fact that you're using people's work, like, you know, giving them props for their podcasts, or you're basically playing other people's work, and I'm really enjoying that. How do I do it? If you want to submit a piece of music, go for it. That's absolutely fine. It doesn't matter what the music genre is. I'll still give it a go. It's still put it on the show. It's all good. And I'll give you this right now. I'm really excited about showing off some work later on from a band we've got, which is they're brilliant. Anyway, I'll get to that in a sec. I think I'll play their music just before our first interview. So I'll tell you more about them in a sec. Brilliant stuff. Absolutely brilliant stuff. So if you want to submit anything, please do. it's send it via an email to me at panicstationsuk@yahoo.co.uk. That's panicstationsuk@yahoo.co.uk. By all means, submit stuff. It could be anything. It could be a poem, could be music, could be an independent film that you want a bit of a shout out to pass on the message to others. It could be a podcast. Absolutely everything fine. Or if you want to be a guest, give us a bell. It's all good. So anyway, getting on to the start of the show. Just before we start, I think I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'm going to play the music we've got. This song I'm actually really excited to play. Because it's done by a very old friend of mine. A lot of my old friends turn up on my podcasts and whatnot, but this one I've not heard his work with his band at all, and I didn't know what to expect. I knew because of his musical backgrounds, like things like the Manic Street Preachers, and you've got a bit of a rock, bit of a foos, things like that, kind of, a bit of raw energy, not screamy, just raw, nice rocky sound to it. And I know what he likes, and it's all good. And this came through. I had no idea what to expect, so I was kind of like very sort of just excited to hear what this song was like. And my friend Simon, he sent it through his band that he's with, called Ancient Addicts. They're a fantastic band, and trust me, if you like this kind of music, you're gonna love this. Have I got a treat for you? I love it. I think it's brilliant. I can't stop playing the damn song. I think it's brilliant. And basically, it's going to be on iTunes. It is on iTunes, so look it up, Ancient Addicts. And if you want to go to facebook.com/Ancient Addicts, they've got their fan page. Definitely check them out. They're absolutely wonderful. This is their debut single, folks. You're hearing it here first. Oh, it's brilliant. If you don't like rock music, it's 4 minutes and 51 seconds. So when the song starts, skip forward 4 minutes and 51 seconds. But if you got a soul and you love your rock music like I do, and this is brilliant. Ancient Addicts, here's their single, Telepathy. Oh, brilliant. I'll be back in a second after I've rocked out to this one. So enjoy. That I love it. I'm sorry, I really love that song. It's brilliant. Ancient Addicts, Telepathy. Check them out. Facebook. They've got the fan page. Get that song from iTunes. Don't be trying bumming it off me for free. Go and buy it now on iTunes. In fact, I'm going to do it. I'm going to spear it off. I'm going to buy a copy of this damn song because that's how I've been given a copy for free, man. I'm on the inside of the band. I'm like that. Fingers crossed, honestly, right with them. No, honestly, they're brilliant. I'm going to buy a copy of that song. So if it's for sale and you can buy a copy, get it. Don't freeload it off me. Go get a copy. So thank you, Ancient Addicts, for letting us play your song. That was wicked. Now, for those of you who may have found the rock music perhaps not to their tastes, unfortunately, again, I loved it, but anyway, what can I say? I'm going to stop gushing. I'm going to stop. Go on, professional face, Chris. Now, I'm just going to start off, before we go into the first interview, I'm just going to start off about something that I find interesting regarding the whole eating disorder thing in general, because the reason I'm going to go on about it is because I don't so much have an eating disorder as it's part of the stress and anxiety issues that I have suffered from in the past, and I still do suffer from, which I kind of touched upon. And as I said, every episode I'll give you a little bit of insight into some of the experiences that I've had, should it obviously be warranted. Now, with me, I had a massive issue when it came to exercise and eating and things like that. To put it mildly, when I got stressed, I pig out. I stress eat. I comfort eat, which has caused me in years to yo-yo in weight, and I will go from being moderately fit to thin to really overweight, and it's been just a nightmare. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And unfortunately, when I had a massive amount of stress and anxiety about 4.5 years ago, I ended up putting myself in a really bad way. I was trying to calm myself down by doing more exercise. Now, like I said with Ben on one of the previous podcasts, I think it was the first one, we were talking about coping mechanisms for anxiety. We were saying about exercise is good. Well, I took it to an extreme. I was doing it because I couldn't sleep, and I was running about probably 10 hours sleep a week, and then I was going to the gym probably about 5-6 times a week, and it got to my worst to exercise and get it out of my system. I was walking 5-mile round trip to the gym. I was doing a 2-mile run, sort of anywhere between 12 and 14 minutes. And then I'd go on the cross trainer, I'd do a few hundred sit-ups. I really pushed myself. And the gym I was using at the time would monitor how much exercise you were doing and essentially relay it into what it looked like in calories, how many you'd burn. And I, on average, on a workout, would be doing 800 to 1,200 calories per workout. And then I'd go back home. I wouldn't binge eat. I was trying to be healthy as possible. And it was soon after I started seeing my wife, my future wife, Debbie. And I pushed myself so much that I ended up having my body couldn't take the amount of stress I was putting myself from running and things. So I almost passed out in the gym. It was a hot day anyway, and I almost passed out. They obviously checked me out because they have to make sure that I'm okay. And when I went to get checked out by the paramedics that turned up, they realised that my heart rate wasn't slowing down like it should and everything else. So what they did was they said, look, you need to go to A&E, just get double checked out. I spent a couple of hours in A&E waiting, and eventually I was fine. Obviously, because obviously I was extremely fit at that point. But the problem with that was I'd been pushing myself too much, and my body was taking longer to acclimatise to rest and go back to speed and recuperate. And I don't know what happened from then on, but very shortly after that incident, for pushing myself too far. I had one of the worst panic attacks I've ever had, where I almost jumped out of a car that was doing 30 miles an hour because of the stress and the panic and the anxiety that had built up. Thankfully, pulled to the side, my wife was driving. And again, going back to that whole, you feel like you're going mad. You feel like you're going mad sometimes when you're having a panic attack. And I felt like I was going mad. I couldn't get my head straight. My wife was trying to calm me down. And thankfully, a off-duty paramedic was driving by and saw me on the roadside, pulled up and went, "Are you okay?" Saw me and went, "That's actually the worst panic attack I've ever seen," because it was so intense. It was a really, really intense one. Like we said before, myself and Ben, when you have a panic attack, sometimes it almost feels a bit like an earthquake. You have a bad one, it sort of peters off, and you calm down, and you have like the ultimate. When you've had a really, really bad panic attack, it's really weird. I found that it was almost like, in a really sick way, it was worth having it, because the elation and calm you felt afterwards, the elation that it's over, and the calm because you're so spent from adrenaline and everything else, so your body can't give you any more stress and give you any more sort of high anxiety to spin on. And after that really bad one, I remember being so calm, and the next day having to go to work. And when I got into work, I was spiking. It was kind of like that sort of Richter scale kind of effect, the after tremors. And I would get moments where I was getting really nervous, and I had to kind of stand up and walk away and go, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And then calm myself down, go back into the office, sit down, start doing my work, then stand up, go off to the loos, just try and calm myself again. It was really, really hard, in some respects, very embarrassing. And again, there was that kind of Richter scale feel to it. So I really pushed myself in a bad way. And because the way the mind does sometimes, with my mind, I've obviously connected excessive gym work, or when I'm running, or if I do a lot of exercise, that kind of brink where you're about to either A, have endorphins kick in, and B, when your body's like, "Oh, I'm knackered now," and everything else because you've worked out. I connect that with anxiety. So sometimes I can have workout and things are fantastic, but the problem is it's given a mental block. And because it's been about 4 years, I've put on about 3 stone to what I used to be, about 3. Sometimes, depending on what's been going on, 3.5 stone. I obviously want to get back to that. It's a source of much frustration for me, because when it came to my wedding, I felt fat and horrible. When it came to the birth of my child, like, it's actually actively in my head, there are less which is really sad, less photos of me with my little girl, because of the fact that I'm very aware of what I look like. I'm very conscious of my weight, and because of that, I absolutely hate having my photo taken unless I can pull off something that makes me look less fat or something along those lines. So normally, the above head shots, kind of looking down at you kind of thing, when you're doing like those kind of selfie shots and things. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing in a way to admit that here on the show, and it's a little bit embarrassing when you have friends going, "Come on, let's just take a picture." I'm like, "No, don't take a picture," and you start wearing Blackmore and just. But I've been very affected due to my weight. And as a kid, I was a very heavy kid, because I would bottle my frustrations and eat more. And I have a lovely, awesome brother, an absolutely awesome brother. I love my brother's pieces. He's always been a very athletic guy. He loved his sports and things like that. He's my older brother, and he's basically, as a kid, like, always doing all the cool exercise stuff and running around and being rugby and football, and like, I think he was in the army cadets at one point, all sorts of stuff. And he was in really good exceptional shape. And it was kind of embarrassing for me because my brother, he wouldn't take it out of me, nothing, far from it. My brother's a lovely guy, absolutely wonderful guy. But the problem would be, for me, would be to go, well, that's my brother, I should be more like that. But I can't be. So I would get my frustrations, let them get the best of myself, and I just sit down playing computer games and stuff in my face because I'm like, no, I can't. I'm not going to do better than that, and kind of gave up almost. And I'll be honest with you, I find a lot of sport, unless it's rugby or an actual well-played football match where people aren't just diving on the floor and things like that, I find them really, really boring. And that's not an attack on anybody that likes sports. Far from it. I find them really boring. Unless it's kind of an extreme sport or something like that, I'm more into that kind of stuff. And I'd rather put on Doctor Who. But again, that speaks volumes about my nerdy nature. Anyway, I digress. So I've had these issues with my weight quite prominently in the back of my mind for a long time. And unfortunately, I haven't found that sort of balance in myself to get my weight down and be a bit more happier in myself. And I really need to make some conscious decisions because I'm 33 now. You can't keep getting overweight and things, you can't be getting close to 16 stone and then going to drop down and so on and so forth. It's a bit silly. So yeah, I've got to make some serious decisions with my life when it comes to my weight. And obviously it's made some pretty weird mental blocks in myself. So finding an idea for an episode, I thought this would be quite an interesting one. And again, it's one that is a valid issue that's currently ongoing. So, as I said before, a bit of a weird one. When I was editing the initial episode 3 for this, we had a situation where the recording was so long because of the 2 interviews that this had to be split over. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the interview with myself and Emma for episode 3, and episode 4 we'll come back to this, and obviously we'll have the interview with Andy. Now again, it doesn't encompass everything that's been going on when it comes to issues with like eating disorders, but we'll come back to that at a later date. So without further ado, here's the interview with Emma. I hope you enjoy it. Stick with it, obviously, because of some of the sound qualities on my end, but it is really, really valid and an exceptional interview. Thank you very much, and enjoy. I'm speaking to a very, very special person from Canada, an absolutely wonderful person, great human being I've known for a number of years, who got in contact with the show regarding her own personal journey with stress and stress-related physical illness. And that's Emma Hutchinson. So hello, Emma, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Must be a bit weird, obviously, because we've known each other a number of years, and now I'm interviewing you, so it sounds very odd. So yeah, I've known Emma for a good long while. She's an absolutely fantastic person, as I said before, and she sort of jumped at the chance to basically say her story. And as I've said before, it's everybody's journey, and I think it's really brave of anybody to come forward regarding any personal issues that they've had, and any sort of experiences is great because it helps the collective as a whole. So Emma, if you'd just like to just sort of tell us a bit about yourself, and obviously from the standpoint you come from.
Well, I guess I could start off with that I've had panic attacks since I was about 13. So, you deal with something you don't understand. I mean, back then, that was the 90s. Nobody understood anything like that. And as I've grown older, you learn all these different things, right?
Yeah.
But I guess I've always been an easygoing kind of person, so when this has been thrown into my life, it makes things not so easy.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
As you know, as you may remember, Chris, I am a very skinny individual as it is, and having being diagnosed when I was 18 with irritable bowel syndrome, otherwise known as IBS, that that caused a lot of trouble for me. I was already suffering anxiety attacks after graduation. I mean, you got your exams, and then there was the fact that my friends weren't contacting me and all that kind of stuff. I was in a rough relationship, and that basically caused me physical harm that I wasn't aware of until, you got to that point where you're starving and you go, okay, I'm going to have something to eat, and then you can't eat. It got to that point where I wasn't eating for days, and then of course, you got the stress on top of it. Like my dad telling me I was anorexic because I
Right.
wasn't eating.
So your dad actually turned around at this point and just said, "Oh, look, you're anorexic." He just kind of jumped to a conclusion.
And it was stressful for me because I'm starving. Like I'm really, really hungry, but because I'm so stressed out, my stomach's gone, nah, you're gonna throw up if you eat this. So
So,
now I'm no longer hungry.
so it wasn't a conscious decision because some eating disorders, not all, but obviously some are conscious decisions regarding obviously whether or not you're going to eat, and obviously for yourself, you actually wanted to, but physically because of all the stress you couldn't.
Yeah. Well, I know like some eating disorders are a self-esteem, their image, right? And I know some of them are like from depression or whatnot, but this was all stress, so like my anxiety kicks in and I don't want to eat. And it makes it really hard. I mean, I'm a skinny person to begin with. I already give people that impression that I don't eat, and that's not the truth. I mean, when I put my stress behind me, I can out eat most men, you know. Like I've been to restaurants and they put down like the three sausages, couple of pieces of ham and bacon and four eggs, and they put it in front of the guy, and it's like, no, no, that's for me. I'm gonna eat that.
Put them
But
straight into their place there. Yeah, that's what
yeah,
happens. You challenge your perception right there, mate.
yeah, it's like no, 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 that half a cow, that's mine.
That right there, that's mine. No, no,
Yeah,
keep them coming. And the burgers.
yeah. And the fries, don't even bother cutting them up. Just give me the potatoes. But when I get stressed, it's like something locks up between brain and stomach. And when I met my most recent ex, I was down to 106 pounds, which
Okay.
is 7 stone on a 5'8" frame.
Wow.
Yeah. I have no pictures of me from back then, so I can't judge. I never thought I looked any skinnier than normal, but I can tell when I feel my own collarbone how far it's sticking out, and I remember it used to stick out far.
Just because obviously to paint a bit more of a picture for the listeners, you said before you weren't having any contact from friends. Just to rewind the clock slightly, we're going to kind of rewind the clock and we'll jump back to what you've just literally just said about
Yeah.
the pictures and things. Because I've known you since school, and just so to paint a picture again for the listeners, you'd left to go to Canada. Your family had moved to emigrate to Canada. How old were you at that point?
14 going on 15.
Okay, so you were 14 going on 15. And at the point where you're starting to have the stress and you're diagnosed with IBS, I'm right saying you were 18 years old.
Well, I graduated when I was 17, so it was between 17 and 18, yeah.
Okay, and were you having any issues, like obviously with your friends at the time?
No, it was like you graduate and everybody kind of does their own thing. It was because it would have been summer holidays kind of thing.
Right.
So it wasn't like there was any issues. It was just we weren't staying in touch with one another. it was kind of a really odd moment, you know.
So you had that going on at the time. You were in was it a bad relationship at the time as well?
Yeah, it was rocky. I would
Yeah.
say it was pretty rocky. We were fighting all the time, you know. And of course, you know, at 17, 18, you think it's love, so you're going to put up with it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
And
that, and I had to find a job too, because my dad was insistent that now you finish school, now you got to look for a job.
oh right, so it wasn't. So you've got all that from the exams and everything else, all these
Yep.
pressures to graduate.
And have I actually finished school? So did I actually, you know, clear my exams enough to actually graduate, not go back to summer school? So it was a lot going
Yeah,
on.
I'd imagine that sounds really quite horrendous, to be honest with you.
And you know, and it got to the point where I was in so much stomach pain, I didn't understand what it was. And of course, I remember laying there on the bed, having this doctor push and prod at my stomach, and getting mad at me because I was crying.
The doctor was getting mad at you.
Yep, and then he ended up calling two other doctors into the room to figure out what was going on with me.
And what did they say? What were the doctors? Were they of the same opinion? Like, were they trying to say, I don't know, if you were faking it or something along those lines? Or?
I think the first doctor was, because he yelled at me to stop crying. I was just in that much pain. And then they all left the room and they all came back, and the doctor's like, you have IBS, here, take these pills, and if it doesn't resolve, it's like if your eating habits don't resolve themselves, then come back and we'll do more tests. And that was at 17, 18 years old, being told that. And I was like, okay then. Well, all right.
Did you share this with your family when you came back to home? Because obviously you were saying that your dad had instantly thought that you were anorexic at the time.
I guess, well, I did, but then it was still the, oh, well, you're just under a lot of stress and it's nothing kind of attitude. Like that was kind of what it was, you know. If it's not understood, there's no reason behind it. Like, if I don't understand why you're this way, then I don't understand why you can't eat. You know, there was that kind of attitude.
So there's no support for that.
No, and there really wasn't, and it wasn't. It isn't until like now that I'm an adult, like that my family now understand a bit more. They certainly are worried, and I have a lot of friends that are very worried about me when I get stressed, because they know exactly what my body will do.
So is
Like,
it like you have the dramatic weight change, like you said before? You generally go by if you can feel your collarbone. So obviously, when there's a large amount of stress and a lot of things that are going on in your life, rather than manifest it as a panic attack, it actually goes into obviously this IBS flare up. Do you get panic attacks as well?
yes. And if I do, it makes it worse, because if I'm already, and I know some people suffer IBS in different ways, and I've met these people, but I think having anxiety on top of it doesn't help me. Because if I get an IBS attack, basically, it's like having an upset stomach times 100. Don't want to eat, you're nauseous and everything like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and of course, there's certain foods you're not supposed to eat that will set off your IBS. So I have to be careful there too. But if I'm stressed, it doesn't matter what I eat, doesn't matter what I do. I'll have a piece of toast and be in so much pain. It's unbelievable. But then I have a panic attack. And if you've had panic attacks, sometimes you get the nausea that comes with it. So you just sit there and you're like, I'm going to puke. I'm going to throw up. But at the same time, your stomach's grumbling because you're so hungry, but now you can't eat. So you try and eat, and then you feel worse. And then it's like, well, I wish I hadn't eaten that piece of toast. Wish I hadn't eaten that, you know. And it makes it harder, because now I have that thought of, well, if I'm going to eat, I'm going to throw up anyway, which means I can't eat anymore. So then where am I? I'm losing weight drastically now, and I don't want to be there. So then it puts added stress on me. Like, this past year has not been good for me, you know, like going through a divorce and everything like that. That's been a fun little trip for me as well, in the IBS, stress, anxiety, not eating department, you know. But I've had more of a support this time. Whereas when I first found out I had IBS, and everything like that, I didn't have support. Whereas this is different,
So, during your recent divorce, the recent stresses, and obviously, I mean, any listeners out there, any breakup of a relationship is absolutely devastating for both parties. I mean, it's not just the person who's walking away from the relationship. It's still people just think, oh, they're walking away and there's no issues there, but it can be equally damaging for the people that are walking away. Now, obviously, I'm not commenting on your own personal circumstances because, again, every personal circumstance is different. But the amount of stress and pressure when a relationship ceases to kind of hold itself together, it's absolutely monumental. And I think, obviously, from what you've told me on a personal level, obviously, I don't think it's particularly anything for our listeners to be knowing about it, unless you wanted to speak about anything in particular. But generally, it's been quite traumatic, and obviously that's going to have upset the IBS that you've been getting before. So, everybody recently, have they noticed the marked sort of decrease of your weight?
It got to the point where people who I don't really converse with on a daily basis, like, you know how you have coworkers, but you'll say hi to them in the morning kind of thing. It was those people that were going, "You've lost weight. Are you okay?" And of course, me being me is like, "Oh no, I'm fine. It's just I'm wearing a baggy shirt today," or like I had a cover up. It was a lame cover up, but it was a cover up. You know, it was, oh yeah, I'm just wearing baggy pants today, or you know, my shirt's just a lot bigger than normal. You know, and that was just to stop them asking more questions.
And obviously now that things are starting to go in a greater direction for you, because I know that things are certainly starting to look up for you, because you're kind of coming out of that dark tunnel. Are you starting to put on the weight again? Are you starting to kind of sort of stabilise?
I would guess I'm more stable, because I will still have my moments where I've eaten something and my body's gone, "Why did you do that?" And, you know, the brain's gone, "But it was delicious." You know, I wanted to eat that giant rack of ribs, you know, and that's the IBS itself without the stress. But when, you know, the stress gets thrown in, that's where everything gets thrown out of whack. Like, I'll still have my moments, like, you know, like that time of the month will probably affect my eating habits, you know, because that's a physical body stress. I mean, that's natural. Most women go through that. But I'm still having my moments of anxiety, which means like eating out is a little bit harder for me right now, because I don't know if I'm going to run into certain people. So there's still kind of that, but and I'm not, and I'm in a safe space right now where I can turn to the person next to me and say, "I'm really not hungry tonight," and they can go, "Okay, that's fine," and I don't feel guilty. Like, I'm not guilted or being told, "Well, you need to eat," or "What did you eat today?" I'm not being quizzed about my eating habits. I'm just getting "No, that's fine. Like, you're not hungry. That's okay. I'm not going to make you eat." And that kind of makes me feel a bit better, and it puts my body at ease and puts my mind at ease. Because that's kind of all I ever wanted. It ended up being in, like, my past relationships as an attack. You know, "Well, you didn't eat blah blah blah," or "Well, at least I eat." It was always a fault, and a negative fault, and I already know it's a negative fault, but I can't do anything about it if you're going to keep thrusting it at me, you know. And I'm sure most people with eating disorders actually have that, you know, people throwing it at them. I already know what my negatives are. You don't need to keep telling me. Like, I know what's going on. Cool. You know, it's just support. Like, it's that, and everybody needs support. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody out there who's got something just wishes somebody would go, "No, that's fine. You know, it's okay." Sometimes that's all we need to hear is it's going to be okay.
We spoke about in the last episode. My guest was a fella called Ben Coker, and he was talking. We were talking about support groups, and said about how imperative it is you have a support group. And I mean, for that particular episode, we were talking about when he had a personal issue regarding anxiety. He'd managed to make his way through his journey, and he was saying about some of the things that he found were constructive, and the things that he found were very impactful in a negative way. And obviously, I mean, we've just discussed, obviously, when you have an external pressure, somebody's using a very serious issue. It's not like, again, on a previous issue, previous episode, there was the mention in the discussion about the fact that when I first had my first panic attack, my introduction to the world of anxiety attacks was anything that I'd seen in the media due to my love of film. As you know, I love films.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love, there's a film called Inner Space, which I'm sure you've seen.
Yes.
And it was Martin Short's character in it, who's a fantastic actor, but he would have these anxiety attacks throughout the film. So my introduction really to anxiety attacks was what the media kind of threw out, and it wasn't constructive. It was used in a comedic way, and that's not an attack on Martin Short's performance. It's not an attack on a brilliant film or the character in the film, but because there was a lack of awareness, it was the 80s, they didn't really go into these kind of the depths of these issues. Because of that, obviously when I did finally have my first panic attack, when somebody told me I was having it, the nurse on the phone, because I would rung up NHS Direct, in fact it was after speaking to you on the phone, I got off the phone for you. I'd had a really, really bad couple of months, and I've been drinking loads, and you told me, look, you know, you're concerning me, and you kind of snapped me out of it, and I was like, Jesus, she's right. And I just got off the phone from you. I'd poured the rest of the whiskey away, and I went to go to bed, and then I started feeling funny, and I started getting the anxiety attack to get started up. And when I went downstairs and spoke to NHS Direct, they said, well, you're having a panic attack. And again, going back to my idea of what a panic attack was, it was kind of almost something to be mocked. And again, when people are losing weight, the whole thing with IBS, the first thing that, well, not to say the first thing that comes into my mind, far from it, because obviously I recognise that it's a very serious condition, and it's a very common and very serious condition. It can lead to really bad things happening to people as well, like Crohn's and things.
Yeah.
And then I have a family member with Crohn's, and when it comes to it, a lot of people, they think IBS. Again, you've got the way it's utilised in sort of media, like the recent Lady Killers remake. I say recent, it's about 6-7 years old now. But there's did you ever see that, the Lady Killers remake?
No, I didn't know.
Okay, well, in that, there's a character who has IBS, and right in the middle of trying to pull a heist, he has an attack, a flare of his IBS, where he's obviously very uncomfortable and has to go to the toilet. And again, it's kind of seen as this, like this comedic thing, and where it's obviously impactful on a number of psychological reasons, because obviously there's what it does to you physically, the stress of that, the physiological changes in your body, and the fact that you feel terrible within yourself, and obviously the things you're already telling me, and obviously on top of that as well, the fact that it can be embarrassing. And I mean, like having a panic attack in public and things like that, because people aren't going to all react in the same way. And Ben touched upon that on the previous episode. Like, you can have people that will be really understanding about anxiety or mental health conditions like that, and then one moment, you know, you can meet somebody like that, you can flip a coin and people can be like, what, get over it, what's the problem?
I'm really vicious about it, and it's not helpful. It's funny how you say your first panic attack. Mine was outside. I was I think I might have been in Shrewsbury or Wellington when mine first, and it was autumn, and I told Mum and Dad that I felt dizzy, and my dad turned around and told me, don't be silly, because it's autumn and we're outside, there's no reason to, because it's not hot. And so the next thing I know, I'm actually in a hospital bed, and doctors checking my breathing and everything like that. And of course, at age 13, this is strange, you know. And mum and the doctor were kind of standing behind me, so at the head of the bed, talking over me. And the doctor goes, "Well, it's just it's a panic attack, and if you're really concerned, I mean, this is her first one, and it might be her last. It might not be her last. And if you feel like it's a big problem, take her to see a psychiatrist." At 13, psychiatrist means you're crazy.
Yeah.
Like, as for somebody who doesn't understand, and I had nightmares about it. I had nightmares that the men in white coats were going to come take me away because I had this issue. And it was all because my grandmother was sick.
So your grandmother had mental health issues as well, and
No, she came down with stomach cancer.
oh god,
And she was in the hospital, and I was at that age convinced that I was killing her because she wasn't allowed to have coffee. Her doctor told her no coffee, no this, and they'd come down for the weekend, and I'd made everybody coffee. And she had a cup of coffee, and then that weekend she was in the hospital. So I had this awful sense of guilt that I killed my grandmother for like the longest time. And of course, I had anxiety about it. I had bad dreams about it. But then got past my grandmother's death, moved on, and I didn't have any issues with panic after that, unless it was like flying, the flying panic. It was like almost irrational fear panic, But then, I got older and the panic turned into other things, it turned into food, it turned into, relationship issues and stuff like that. But at that time, it wasn't understood for my parents, nobody else around was having panic attacks. Nobody got it. Nobody understood it, whereas now, like I can tell my dad, I've been suffering depression, I've got anxiety, and my dad goes, "Oh, how have you been dealing with that?"
well that's great. So he's actually I don't want to say evolved. That makes it sound like a bloody Pokemon. He's kind of obviously learned more. His education within the idea of mental health spectrum has obviously sort of got bigger. So he's more accepting, and more educated with the kind of responses to say to somebody who's having these things, kind of going, well, actually, it is a genuine issue, and we need to make sure that she's okay, and we need to make sure that, like, obviously, this doesn't happen, and she's looked after and she's reassured.
Yeah. Like, I can honestly say that when I first found I had IBS and anxiety at the same time, it was like I'm the only person in the world who's this screwed up with these two issues that makes it look like I have a food disorder, like an eating disorder, and I don't. Because when I do eat, like, when I am good, I am good. When I am bad, I am horrid. Like it's a balance of extremes for me. Like my doctor gave up telling me that I needed to put on weight because my weight doesn't change every year. It may change within a couple pounds. But I'm at probably about a steady 125 if I'm lucky, soaking wet, holding a brick. So it's about 8 stones.
Right.
But so like, and I try not to worry about the gaining of the weight because then I'm going to stress myself out more. I just worry about being able to eat. Because if I don't eat, then it shows, and then people get more worried, which then gets me more worried about myself when I don't want to be in that way. I want to think that, yes, I had a burger today and I felt good after eating it. And, I'm find myself, and it's horrible to say this, when you compare yourself to other people's mental illnesses and you're like, I'm glad I don't have blah, because I don't know how I'd cope with that. We always seem to look at the worst to try and measure ourselves, and we shouldn't.
Yeah,
we should never.
That's a very, very valid point.
Because we've all done it. We've all looked at someone and gone, I'm glad I do this. Like I'd rather cut myself than punch myself.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. There's still extremes of a degree of an illness, right? No, you should look at it and go, I have what I have. I can be better with what I have. I can make this okay for me. But
Like
you have to,
managing.
yeah, you if you can manage it, that's the first step, I think. Like, for me to think that I'm going to be better is a ridiculous thought. To be really honest with you, to think that I'm going to be 100% and perfect is too far. That's too much of a reach, and it's unrealistic. To me, to being realistic is, am I going to be stressed today? Okay, I'm not going to eat much today, and I'm going to be all fine with that. Tomorrow's another day.
But does that have an impact for your overall happiness? I mean, obviously it must do. I mean, does it stop you from thinking, well, am I ever going to be fully happy? I mean, does it knock onto other things?
Um, it all depends on what's going on at the moment, you know. If it's stress related from things that I thought I should be happy with, then yes, it's going to impact my happiness. If it's stress because it's something I don't understand, like, work or a car accident or something like that, where you can't really control it too much, then it's not really affecting my happiness. It's just affecting my eating for that week or those couple days or something like that. It's it doesn't affect me in that way. Like, I won't get depressed over not being able to eat, which sounds awful. Like, I haven't eaten for a week. Yay! But it
Yeah.
it won't bring me down because I know what I have. I know what's going on with me. All I know is that it's almost like I've got to detox myself to get back on track, to back to being able to have what I want to eat. It sounds really weird me saying this out loud, like, because it's like I'm okay with my eating disorder. But I'm not. I'm not okay with the fact that my body dictates when I can do what I want to do. But I deal with it. Does that make sense?
No, no, it does. It makes absolute sense. Of course, it does. Yeah. I mean,
Because
one of the again, I suppose when you suffer from an anxiety disorder, sometimes I say sometimes, pretty much every single day, you will work a way around trying to go, right, this is my plan, how I deal with this, or this is what I've got to do, and so it's in the back of your mind. But there has to be a certain degree of acceptance. I mean, what I've learned from my experiences is that if I'm starting to get very, very stressed, I've got to be comfortable enough to just be honest and say, yeah, okay, I need to take a break now because this is happening, and if it carries on happening, I will, because I know my limits, because I've pushed past them before. It's inevitably it's going to cause worse issues, so I need to just slow the train down a bit and just kind of take things step by step. And I suppose with what you're saying, obviously you can manage it with the things that you're eating when you know that you're having a seriously bad flare up because things have happened at, I don't know, say at home. You've had an issue where you've fallen out with a friend or something, you've
yeah,
gone to work, something's happened in the workplace, and that's obviously increased your stress, and then obviously that has a knock-on effect, so you kind of just monitor it and manage it as best as you can to
yeah.
carry on until everything's a bit calmer.
I will admit, and I've actually done this where I've been in the middle of making dinner, and me and the guy I was with, he starts a row with me. So now I'm stressed out. That dinner's gone to waste because I can't eat. Like, there was stuff like that, so it was almost deliberate, and then it was pointed a finger at me, going, "Well, you've just gone and wasted this food." No, actually, you started a fight with me knowing I would get upset and wouldn't eat. So it was almost a cycle
Yeah.
that I found myself in, and to me that's really sad. But then I have, like, like I said, I've got to support, like you say, you've got to mentally prepare yourself almost for a day. Like if I know I'm going out somewhere, it's a big deal for me. Am I gonna eat while I'm out? Who am I gonna run into while I'm out? Is it worth me going out at this point? And I'll tell you, I've bailed on a lot of people on plans because I've not been comfortable. And it's actually taken those people who love me dearly to go, no, screw you. You're coming out. You're going to be fine because you think you're not going to be fine. You're going to have the safety of three people around you. You're going to be fine. You're going to enjoy this. You're going to have a really good time. And then by the time I've gone out with them, I've totally forgotten about everything that I just stressed myself out about.
See, it's all it takes is that kind of that reaffirmation, that positive reinforcement to say, well, look, you're going to be fine. Like quite rightly, like you say, you're going to be fine. You need to be okay. You'll be able to push past it. You'll be able to do that thing. And I mean, sometimes it can happen where, again, drawing on my experiences with anxiety, because that's certainly the case when I've had my issues with anxiety in the past, where I've gone, like you say, it can dictate what you do, and and I've gone, you know what, and I've psyched myself out, and then I've pushed myself in a comfortable way, and I've gone round to somebody's place, and when I said I was going to go over and everything's been fine, and then there have been times where I've just bailed because it's got so intense that if I even attempted to try it, it's going to have a knock-on effect. If you had that where at that point you've got to kind of go, yes, they're right, I will go out, I won't let it dictate me in that respect, but I'm also very well aware of my own physical capabilities, and at this moment in time I need to kind of just back away.
Yeah. And I've actually...
Have you had that?
Yeah, I actually have had that, because I'll give you a little insight. Last year, I basically was homebound for 3 months and only going out for work. I didn't leave the house for anything but work.
The occasional movie.
I would go to groceries I'd go get food shopping done at probably about 11 o'clock at night, sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning, just to avoid people. Because we're lucky, we got 24-hour shopping here.
Yeah, same here. We're okay here as well.
Yeah, and
both a blessing and a curse.
I know, right? Ooh, but it got to those points where people would be like, you can come down whenever you want. Yeah, I know. I never went anywhere, and then when I finally did get to go out, it was a horrible experience. I went to go see a movie, and as soon as the movie was done, I was out at the front door. I was gone. I left the person I was with in the lurch. They were in my dust. What's the matter? I just want to go home.
Follow the Emma-shaped blur.
Yeah, and that was it. And it's slowly getting to that point where there's two people in my life that have noticed, and I've actually asked them, because I couldn't fake. I don't know about you, but I couldn't fake an anxiety attack if I tried.
Oh God!
Because I don't know what I do. And I actually asked somebody, I'm like, I have no idea do what I do. What do I do? And they told me exactly what it is I did. I treat two people completely differently. And the one friend that I've been out with, she goes, you put as much physical distance between us as humanly possible. She goes, and then that's when I know I have to take you home. And I'm like, oh. And that it made me sad, but it made me feel good that she noticed.
Yeah. She knows you so well that she can see the signs.
Yeah, or she'll know when I'm supposed to eat. She's like, you're hungry now. We should get you to eat before you get stressed out for being out and you don't eat for the rest of the day. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. And I am hungry now. Like, let's do this. And it's kind of nice to have that. It's almost like having a Jiminy Cricket in real life. Somebody's able to tell you about you when you should know. Like you said, you either psych yourself up or psych yourself out. And I've got people that will be like, no, 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 none of this nonsense. Let's give it an hour. If you don't like it, you can go home. And it's been that kind of thing where it's like, okay, yeah, fair enough. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, and probably about 6 times out of 10 they're right. It's it's hard, but I deal with it. Like, I know when to expect certain things. It's between anxiety and IBS. If I know I'm stressed out, I know my IBS is going to act up. I know I'm going to eat less. I know when these things come. It's when people tell me that I'm doing a bad thing, or I should be eating, or I shouldn't let stress get to me, or like, this is stuff I know. Don't tell me what I know. Like, I'm sure everybody out there hates being told, well, be depressed less. Sure. Okay.
Yeah. I hate that.
Maybe just don't think about it. Then you won't panic. Sure. Okay.
Yeah. It never occurs to him that when people go, look, there's nothing wrong. What's the problem? It never occurs to them that basically it doesn't matter that they're saying that. The person that they're talking to is quite clearly a rational, intelligent human being.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this condition, and it is a condition,
has
put them in a situation where they can't do things. And again, emotions regulate. If you look back, like we've said, we've touched upon this on a previous episode again. If you touch back to the start of like humanity, like the whole fight or flight response, you got to be very well aware that emotions have always really dictated the physical responses of what we do as human beings, and only more as we've sort of evolved intellectually has it manifested itself into perhaps more common and more obvious traits and we've understood more about things like mental health and diagnoses of the mind. And I mean, you look at when somebody's angry, the first thing they do, their sort of physical stance changes, their demeanour changes, the way they speak to you changes, or the way they don't speak to you changes. You can tell, you get that vibe, that emotional vibe off them. And if somebody's nervous, you can tell it in their voice. And it's this, and again, it's all emotions ruling that kind of physical change. Basic emotions over complex things that make you react in a certain way, and physically, like whether it be like a hormone change that can make you have a panic attack or feel spaced out, or you won't, it's stretched to the point where you can't sleep, or the IBS and things. And I was saying before, my definition of a panic attack, when you're having a bad panic attack, it's almost like the most common thing I've always, through all the groups I've ever attended when I've done group therapy, from all the counsellors and psychiatrists that I've seen in my scope of learning more about my condition, one of the things that's always said is the fact that you think that you're going mad. The first thing it says is you think you're going mad, and clearly you're not going mad, but it feels that way, and it's scary because you can't understand things. You look at things and you don't know. I mean, you don't understand them. I mean, I've had such a bad panic attack at one point. I've looked at bricks in a wall, and it's confused me. I've gone, I can't. They don't make any sense. And I mean, how does that even in itself make sense?
You don't know how to breathe. Like, what is this in and out thing?
Yeah, exactly. And again, it goes down to that base thing, because you're more concentrating on that than the cognitive thought, where your mind is processing all the images around you, the whole sensory sort of things that flood you on a day-to-day basis, whether it's just walking along a road with the colours of like flowers and like cars and things that pass you and advertisements and things like that, to like the fact that we all carry phones and we go on the internet and we're dicking around trying to get bloody songs on our phones while we're walking along and listening to them through headphones and things like that. And my best definition of a panic attack is it feels like somebody has put some sort of explosive device in your mind, it's gone off, and all the memories and all the thoughts of the last couple of weeks, or or general, anything that reaches you directly when you just think about things in general, are floating above your head, and you like suddenly do not understand anything, and you're like, "Ooh, I've got to put those together in a certain way," and you try to put them back into your head quickly because you suddenly become very aware of it. So that starts you to get worried, and you try to put everything together. Go right, yeah, I'll do this, this, and this with the words floating around your head, and it doesn't make the correct kind of thing. It doesn't make the correct sentence, and it doesn't make sense to you, and you're trying to gather your thoughts, but you can't concentrate and put them into any cognitive order. And again, the fear sets in, and that's really the best way I can kind of describe when I have a really bad, confusing panic attack.
Yeah, I always feel like I'm dying.
Yeah.
I die. And everyone's like, no, you're not. I'm going to die. I'm dying.
Yeah.
I think I'm dying. And, when you get indecisive, that's how I feel. I feel like somebody's asked me, do you want butter on your toast? Do you want jam? I don't know. What should I have? And that's kind of how my brain goes.
Complete confusion.
Just exploded, and nothing makes sense. Just because you couldn't add 1 + 1 to make 2, you keep coming up with 4. There's no reason to get upset, but I'm getting upset about it. Most people wouldn't. They would sit down, okay, let's figure this out. And it's simple things. You can't do them.
And it is debilitating. It is genuinely debilitating.
I've actually been told I look pale. I will look almost green, and I can't stop shaking. So my normal go-tos is a bottle of water, really cold, and somebody to talk to me. I don't care what you talk to me about. You could talk to me about how you went on a raid and WoW. You can talk to me about how it was a really hard time for you to find all your socks and pair them up, and it took you 3 hours to do it. I don't care what you talk to me about. Just talk to me about something.
Yeah. Get my mind off what I'm thinking. Just help me. Help me through it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, we've gone on a pretty bloody long tangent. We're getting to this point. Because I said it's my fault, because I was like, actually, let's go back and talk about when you first moved to Canada, and the other thing I was going to go back to, and you've kind of touched upon it again already, was the thing about when people they see it as either a weakness or a chink in your armour, and they exploit it, and that's a very cruel thing that people will do when they're trying to win an argument, and they've used it against you, used the things that have happened to you against you, like regarding your weight loss and the fact that you've lost weight, and that causes you to stress more. Have you ever found that, because you're aware of that, does that ease the process any, or does it make no difference?
It depends on what mood you've caught me in. Oh, you look so skinny. You might upset me. Right, physically upset me about it. No, did we freeze?
No, not frozen. We're still about.
Okay, good.
We're still here. Connection's still good.
Good. It might really upset me, but if I'm in I'm aware of what's going on about me, it's like, yeah, I know I've lost weight, I've had a really rough time. It's all going to depend on where my mental status is.
Yeah.
When these people come at me and how I think they're coming. I mean, perception versus reality. They could be really concerned, but my perception is they're being really mean and bullying about it. You read things wrong all the time. It all depends on where I am. And sometimes it's helpful, and it's like, oh, you've noticed. Okay, mental note, I've got to try a little bit harder, and, try and eat a bit more, and try and look healthy. There's healthy fat people and there's unhealthy fat people. There's healthy skinny people and unhealthy skinny people. You know, there's no perfect person out there, in my opinion. And if you can't be a positive influence for that person or show that you care without coming off as a complete prick about it, then you're gonna hurt that person. You know, you're not gonna help them at all. And that's something I've had to learn myself, is if somebody is gonna try and say something, don't read too much into it. They don't know. You can't be mad at somebody for not knowing. You know, like the whole, if you don't ask, you don't know.
And sometimes it's a case of, because you can find yourself doing irrational, again, the irrationality of it all, because again, going back to moods, and sometimes you find yourself, because you don't know, you have to talk yourself out of it, because you might be going, right, well, fuck them, I'm going to go on, have a go at them via text or whatever, or, you know, and they obviously won't know.
Yeah. And it's really hard not to go off on someone. Like when somebody was like, oh, you look really skinny. And it was the way they said it. It almost sounded like I was dying. And it took me a lot not to turn around and be like, screw you. You know, like my husband left me and this and this and that and the other thing. And that's what was going on in my head. And that's when I just turned around and was like, no, I'm just really tired. And, you know, it's just a really different pair of pants today. Oh, okay, well, you just look really tired lately. Yeah, I have been. You know, and it's like you gotta keep that inside voice where it belongs sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of people suffer from that.
You know, and it makes it harder because then it makes you look like the asshole instead, right?
For rising towards it, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though they don't know. They might just be actually genuinely concerned, you know, and that's another thing too. Like when you're anxious already, you think the world's out to get you. You know, so it's been a battle. I would say it's been uphill, you know, but it's manageable at times. And when it's not manageable, then yes, I will bawl my eyes out and try and find my reset, my Control Alt Delete, as it were, you know.
Do you find that when you're looking at yourself at the end of the day through all of this, do you find that you're still okay with you, or do you get angry at yourself for any of these things?
Are we talking about looking at me from an inside point of view, or actually standing in front of a mirror to look at myself?
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting point, because if you're standing in a mirror looking at yourself, and it's obviously part of the physical symptoms show, and it echoes back to obviously the stuff that's going on inside, but generally inside, if I've made it to the end of the day without incident, I think I've had a good day. That's about as easy as I can put it. If I was to actually look at myself at the end of the day, I would probably be right upset with myself. I don't think I would be able to say a positive thing about myself at all if I had to look in the mirror and do it. So you physically, you find yourself have an issue when you see yourself?
If I've had a really rough day, yeah. I will point out every flaw, everything, and it makes it worse for me. Whereas if I could just go, yep, I made it through today. I had a couple hiccups. You know, had a barbecue at work today. That was awesome, and I was able to eat. And you know, things have turned into a joke for me. Like when it comes to food, you know, my stomach's gonna hate me for eating this, but it was worth it. You know, it's that kind of stuff, and it makes people realize that she's trying. She really is trying to actually enjoy a good meal every once in a while, and it's not going to kill her, you know. But it's that kind of thing where I can go, yep, I made it today. Like before, like last year, it was, yeah, I woke up this morning. That's my big accomplishment. I got out of bed today, and now I'm into I had a good day. Or if I had a bad day, I'm able to sound off and then forget about it. You know?
That's good. It's a good way to be able to kind of, you you've clearly learned to manage the things that have happened to you, and through great stresses. I mean, like, everybody has them. Everybody's life is full of stresses, and I think with your day-to-day life and the things that have happened and the tragedies that shape us and the things that make us, like going back to the whole thing that you were worried about your grandmother that you caused. Obviously you hadn't caused anything there.
No. Like, if you ask me now, I don't think I killed her. I mean,
No, good God,
she
no.
was already sick and stuff like that. If you'd have asked me when I was 15, what happened to your grandmother, I'd have told you I killed her. Straight out. I killed my grandmother. I was so convinced, and I was so hurt by it, and it was just one of those things that it was a coincidence.
Yeah.
It's just a thing of coincidences, it's stuff that you learn. I mean, I'm by no means perfect. I've managed my panic in my own ways. Because I refuse to be on medication for it, because I've done my bout of medication and it did horrible things for me, and I will never do it again. So I have to find other venues and other things to help myself. Same with the IBS. I mean, I've known people on IBS and they're on like 12 different kinds of medication. I know somebody who has Crohn's and she's on steroids, off steroids, on steroids, off steroids, and it's a horrible thing. And I'm like, I don't want to be that way. I want to try and do this for myself until I get to a point where I can't. And I've told people that if I can't do it anymore, I will go get the help that I need. Like, if it gets to that point, yes, I will go get the medication so I can eat. I will go get the medication so I can actually get out of bed in the morning, like that kind of thing. And I've made that promise to so many people because they love me. And that was a hard one to say, but people do love me. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Of course people love you.
I know, but it's just, you don't think about that when you're in it, right? And it's just, it's been my journey. I know other people have their own journey for different things, and they've probably had it harder. But then that's me measuring, and I shouldn't measure. And it's just, I think I've learned more in this last 3 years, which is awful because I've been struggling with IBS since I was diagnosed when I was 17. But it's these last 3 years that I've learned more because I've had more people to, I shouldn't say fall back on, because I'm the worst person to ask anybody for help, and I think you know that more than anybody. I won't ask for help.
Yeah.
Unless people see it. I mean, the times that, you and I have talked and you've gone, what's the matter? And I've gone, no, I'm fine. You've basically bullshitted me out of it. You're like, no, you're lying to me right now. What's going on? And I've realized that in the last 3 years, that there's more people that are like that'll go, no, when was the last time you went and got food? Oh, okay, that's your answer. You're coming over for dinner tonight. It's been that kind of thing, So it's, I don't know, it's been a learning process for me these past 3 years. I mean, like I said, everybody deals with their stuff differently, and it's a learning curve, I guess you could call it. Yeah. I wasn't expecting to cry. Sorry.
Well, that's unfortunately it happens, but it's not. Again, I say unfortunately, you shouldn't have to apologise for anything like that. End of the day, it's a natural thing, like all emotions, and it's a good way of processing things.
Yeah.
So no, don't you worry about that. It's all good. In fact, I know myself and all the people that are listening. You have no idea how much what you're telling people right now can affect others in the respect that they're listening and going, wow, somebody understands. So thank you for being brave enough to be so open.
Well, thank you for letting me be open. I just hope that, maybe somebody's in that place where they've got 3 different things and gone, oh, my life sucks. And really, it's not that your life sucks. It's just you were dealt a crappy hand, and now you just got to wait for the next set of cards to turn up, right?
Yeah.
You just got to, if you're playing Texas Hold'em, you got to wait for the river, right? So.
I don't know. I'm not great with card metaphors, so I'm going to have to take you.
Somebody out there's going to be like, yes, a poker metaphor.
Yeah, somebody will be like, poker metaphor, great. That's great. If you whack that into nerd for me, I'm good. I can. Come on, you can do this. Whack it into a nerdy thing for me.
Oh, gosh, a nerdy what? You'll get your letter from Hogwarts?
Kind of. I'm going to throw in a Doctor Who reference now. What a surprise. I'm going to say, sometimes you've got to know when to regenerate.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, well, before we wrap this all up, because you've been so kind to give me a lot of your time, and I really appreciate it. And I know that you've obviously had to expose some nerves to explain your side of things, and I really respect and appreciate that, because you've taken a lot of brave steps to talk to everybody. What I'd like to just ask now, one final question, is that if you could give anybody who suffers from anxiety-driven IBS or any sort of eating disorders and things of that nature, if you could give them any advice from your own experiences through what you've been through, what would it be and why?
Take it one day at a time. Don't push yourself. And don't sit on the negative on what you've done. Whether you didn't eat that day, whether you purged that day. It's done. You can do it.
Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that. Everybody, that was Emma Hutchinson, one of the bravest, kindest, sweetest people I've ever had the fortune to meet in my life. She's absolutely lovely. And obviously everybody that's listening, and everybody that's going to listen to any of the future podcasts and they've re-downloaded this one because they've want to go back and things like that. Anybody listening to this, I'm sure, more than grateful for you for sharing your experiences, and really, really appreciate it sincerely. Thank you very much for being brave.
Thank you.
All right.
I just hope I didn't ramble too much, everybody.
Hey, don't worry about that. I'm the rambler. I mask my complete inadequacy as a presenter by trying to use big words and stumble over them. Thank you, Emma. You've been absolutely wonderful. Okay, and hopefully we would love to have you on the show again, sort of a bit later down the line if we have any other sort of things. If you ever want to take part in anything, you're always welcome to pop in and say hello to everybody and take part in discussions.
That would be lovely. Thank you.
All right, you take care, all right?
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There you go. So, again, I apologise to any listeners who found the sound quality during that interview a little bit distracting. So, the main thing is, though, you've stuck through it, and I will endeavour for future interviews to make sure I sort out that technical difficulty. So, thank you very much. Now, earlier on, I did mention the fact that there was another interview planned to be directly played after the interview with Emma. Unfortunately, as I said, the podcast was simply too big. We're already skirting towards like almost an hour and a half. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a pin in it, like I like to say, and we'll be back in episode 4, continuing the discussion. So same time next week. And what we'll have is Andy's take and his story. Really, really interesting stuff. In the meantime, if you want to drop us a line, like I said, with poems or with music, or you want to give some feedback, or you want to be a guest, anything like that, it's panicstationsuk@yahoo.co.uk. That's panicstationsuk@yahoo.co.uk. I want to thank Ancient Addicts for the use of their song. Absolutely wonderful song. And another person we're going to close off with is somebody we've had guest on the show musically before. I've had a number of people going, I need to know who that guy is. I keep forgetting his name, and his beautiful voice, got really nice acoustic sort of voice, acoustic sort of sound, really good. It's a guy called Robin Blackmore. You can find his stuff in SoundCloud. That's SoundCloud. You can find that on the internet. Put it on like in a search engine. You'll find SoundCloud. Go on to SoundCloud. It's where a lot of people show their work, and you can listen to it. And he's under Robin Blackmore Music. Fantastic music. He's got a page on Facebook. Find him on Facebook. All really, really good stuff. And this next track coming up to end the show is called Bear Forest. It's a beautiful track. I hope you enjoy it because, again, fantastic singer. And until next time, everybody take care, have all the best, remember you are not alone, and things do get better. So until then, take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time on Panic Stations UK.
Bear forests remind me not to step on your toes, not to see where it goes. If they never find me, say farewell to this land with my youth in my hands. There's a man in the darkness whistling away. Follow him into the cold break of the day. Bare forests console me, and the lies we have told follow us through the cold. If he can surpass me, he'll help you off with the light and crawl out to the night. There's a man in the darkness whistling away. Follow him into the cold.